Hi there everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel and I'm a real estate agent here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with RE/MAX 360 Realty, and I'm here today to help you on your home buying or selling journey in 2023. Okay, so I felt like this was a much needed video, a much wanted video. I believe there are a lot of people out there that are going to be moving within Pittsburgh or moving to Pittsburgh in the year 2023 and that would like some type of idea about how the market is going to go in 2023 and the predictions. Now bear in mind, I am not an economist, obviously, and I'm not a lender or a financial advisor or anything like that, so if you have any concerns or questions of that nature, then I would refer you to somebody else that would be able to answer those questions for you. But I thought I would hop on here and read you some of REDFIN's data that they put out in a press release on December 6th. And they actually did, I believe, a national one, and they have local predictions for 2023 as well. So I figured I would read those to you and glean some information from those and come up with a conclusion about what I think the market is going to do in 2023, which I am very happy to say I think it's going to be a lot better than I thought it was going to be a couple months ago. I honestly thought the interest rates were going to be in the 9s or 10s a couple months ago, and I am glad to say the Federal Reserve caught on and got the picture and got the message that, yeah, they've gone a little bit too far with the inflation curbing. So the interest rates have been lowered to around 6.27% this week. I believe that is going to be a mainstay in the first part of 2023 with the interest rates potentially going up close to 7, but I don't think they will exceed 7.5 in the year of 2023, which is great because nobody was going to be buying a house at 9 to 10% interest rate. Like nobody was going to do that. So this is very good. Well, it's not the optimal rate, it's not super terrible, and by the end of 2023, I believe the rates are going to be, well, they're predicted to be in the 5s, which unfortunately for those of you that were hoping it would go down to 4 and 3 again, it's not going to do that. The 5s, I believe personally, and now I don't have any evidence to back this up, but just based on what I've seen in my 6 years in this profession, I think 5 is going to be the standard interest rate in 2024 and 2025. I think floating around the 5s, that's going to be the new normal. So I really don't think we're going to go back to the 4s and the 3s. Unfortunately, they were really great interest rates, and 2021 had set that precedent that they should be in the 3s. But ultimately, it was very unrealistic because it set up a lot of untenable competition between buyers for limited inventory. So, okay, enough of that. Let's get into this REDFIN article. Housing market predictions 2023. A post-pandemic sales slump will push home prices down for the first time in a decade. Now, I believe in Pittsburgh, the home prices are down around 5%, and they may be like that nationally, if I'm not mistaken, but I think Pittsburgh is going to see a ceiling of 10% losses on home prices. So I think the max amount of price decreases or price improvements that you're going to see is around 10% from where they were in 2021. This was to be expected. People definitely overpaid for their houses in 2021. The interest rates made up for that, but again, the value is not going to hold for the first preceding years of that inflation on the prices. So really, this just tells us that the people that are going to be selling their houses are going to be the ones that have to move, or they're going to have owned their house for such a long time that it's not going to matter that they are losing 10% of the value of what it was in 2021 because they've overall gained a lot of value from owning for many years. So they're not going to really like feel or see that that financial difference so much as somebody that like maybe bought a year or two ago, and then they're like, oh my gosh, my equity was predicted to be this much in 2021 and now I actually lost money since I bought and all that. It's not going to happen with people that have been owning a long time. And people are going to be a little bit less afraid to come out of the woodwork, sellers, I mean, because they're going to see that these interest rates are going to incentivize buyers in the 5s, and it's going to be a really, really good effect from what we're seeing now, which is fear of selling homes because of the lack of buyers that are out there and the lack of inventory, in which they wouldn't be able to go anywhere if they did end up selling their home. Mortgage rates will take center stage in 2023, with high rates likely to make it the slowest housing market year since 2011. And I think that's probably accurate, because the beginning of 2022 was still very, very, very fast paced, multiple offers, every house selling within a day or two. I mean, that was normal at the beginning of this year. We're not going to see any of that in 2023, which is why they're predicting that it's going to be the slowest sales year since 2011. I wasn't in the game in 2011, so I'm not actually sure why it was super slow in 2011. Like, maybe it was like a reverberation of the financial crisis and housing bubble pop of 2008. I'm not really sure. But regardless, yeah, 2023 is going to be very, very slow for sellers. But if you are a savvy buyer and you're willing to accept a rate in the 6s, which isn't historically terrible, and you can find a good rate on a house, yeah, there's going to be buyers out there. There's always going to be buyers. If you are somebody that has to buy in 2023, I would not panic, because if you pair yourself with a really, really great agent who knows what they're doing, then you will be in really good hands to find yourself a deal even when the rates are in the 6s, because sellers are going to be more likely to be desperate to sell with the amount of buyers that are still going to be scared off by those rates. But again, you can be the special one who's not scared off by those rates, and that is perfectly acceptable. Our forecasts for mortgage rates, home sales, and home sale prices account for a range of outcomes for inflation, employment, and other macroeconomic factors. As such, our predictions for those key housing metrics lead with the most likely scenario, followed by other possible outcomes that could happen if, for instance, a better than expected inflation report results in an earlier or bigger than expected mortgage rate drop. It may be worth waiting a couple months to see if that actually happens. I think you'll know by March or April whether or not the rates are slated to go down at all. If they do not by March or April, then you're probably going to have rates in the 6s or high 6s throughout the summer, because that is when buying is going to be at the fastest pace of the year. The weather is going to be incentive enough for a lot of people, honestly, and so there's going to be no need to lower the rates to incentivize an economic stimulation. REDFIN prediction number 1, home sales will fall to their lowest level since 2011, with a slow recovery in the second half of the year. We expect about 16% fewer existing home sales in 2023 than 2022, landing at 4.3 million, with would-be buyers pressing pause due to mostly affordability challenges, including high mortgage rates, still high home prices, persistent inflation, and a potential recession. People will only move if they need to. Now, I've been saying that for months now, that people will only buy and sell if they need to, and unfortunately, a recession is pending, so people's ability to buy a house is going to be impacted by whether or not they can keep their jobs a lot of the time. Yes, the mortgage rates are high. Another problem is that the home prices are still not going down to the level that we need to see them go down in order to match the current rates. I just think that there's a lot of sellers out there that are still unrealistic about the price they can sell it for. They think they can still sell it at 2021 numbers, and that is simply not the case. There's going to have to be a sort of give and take somewhere in that process where they realize that they're going to need to lower their prices in order to match the existing rates. So while they might not sell for as much as they wanted to, they still have the potential to sell for a decent amount. But that's really only if they bought years and years ago and still retain the equity of buying the house. But that's only if they bought years ago, and they retain that equity from years of owning the home. And again, this is going to have an impact on sellers who are going to see all this information and they're going to go, I'm not selling my house. So you're going to see probably another year-over-year sales decrease, like number of units sold, that's gonna probably go down. It actually went down 25% in just a few short months. So probably you're gonna see it maybe go down like maybe another 10% year over year, which again, all of this has been anticipated, but yeah, sellers are definitely like feeling all of this too. It's not just buyers, like it's a whole ecosystem of factors that are, you know, causing a ripple effect in this market. The thing is, we're not going to see the same type of housing crisis as we did in 2008. I think there's a misconception here that there was a bubble that popped in 2008, so it's going to be the same here. It's not going to be the same in 2023 because this is a completely different crisis. The crisis in 2008 was because of predatory lending and subprime loans, which were, you know, handed out like candy to people that really didn't qualify for those loans. And as a result, there was a lot of houses that went into foreclosure and values dropped drastically as a result. And that's not quite the same thing as what's happening here, like what happened with 2021, because 2021 was just an overinflation of prices which, you know, because of the demand, people were buying up all the houses, which caused the competition caused the prices to go up and up and up and up and up, and people were bidding insane amounts just to win the house. So that was due to the low interest rates and everybody feeling like they had to lock in those interest rates at any cost. Fortunately, there has been a precedent set for prices in which they're not going to go lower than that precedent, because a lot of those people that bought in 2021 still had their jobs after the pandemic started. The people that lost their jobs at the beginning of the pandemic could not qualify to buy a house in 2021. So the majority of those people that bought those houses had very stable jobs and probably have been able to retain those jobs and retain their ability to pay their mortgage. So you're not going to see a lot of foreclosures or things really dropping out, because that equity is going to be retained within people that were well qualified to buy these homes at the interest rate, at the high price that they bought them. So I don't know if you can sort of tell the difference between those two scenarios in the crises, but yes, very, very different scenarios in which one was sort of because of the lending, and the other one was sort of in spite of lending. Another possible existing sales scenario is that they'll decline by only about 12%, like I said, around 10% in 2023 from 2022 landing at just over 4.5 million. That could happen if inflation consistently slows faster than expected, allowing the Fed to slow its pace of rate hikes and leading to quick mortgage rate drops. But if the inflation persists, sales could drop by up to 27% year over year. Yeah, I don't really think that's likely to happen. I'm really hoping that inflation doesn't persist beyond March or April. But again, like if it does, people's wallets are really going to be squeezed and squeezed hard, which makes it even less likely that people will believe that they can afford a home at this time. I'm not an economist, so I don't know. I'm really hoping that inflation doesn't continue, because my wallet's going to be squeezed and my business is going to be impacted, if I'm telling you the honest truth. So yes, you know, I think everybody's hoping against all hope that it doesn't end up being that way. But again, we'll have to see. I'm hoping that inflation is at its worst. There's a lot of people that are predicting it's going to get worse. There's some people predicting that that's a little bit of an overshot, but again, I don't know. Worst case scenario is that it is down 27% year over year, and you know, the realtors that stay in the game are just going to have to make do with what they can, and they're going to have to get creative and crafty and find a way to get their buyers the best deal if they do have to move, which I know a lot of you are relocation people that probably have to move. So I'm one of those creative and crafty agents that will help you get your best deal despite all of this hullabaloo with the economy. Prediction number 2, mortgage rates will decline, ending the year below 6%. Yeah, so they're predicting that this 30-year fixed mortgage rate will be around 5.8 by the end of 2023, which will be a great time to buy because it'll be in the winter months when nobody wants to move, and competition will be less because of that factor. It's going to be around the holidays, and it's going to be a great time for somebody that wants to relocate because they're going to be able to get a good price on a house for a good interest rate because the competition is going to be way less. Or people are going to catch on and it's going to be brutal again, but I highly doubt that's the case because the 5.8% interest rate doesn't sound as appealing as what once was in the 3.2, 3.3, 3.4 rates that we experienced in 2021. So just something to keep in mind if you have some time to spare. It might be a great idea to wait until the end of 2023 to move within or to Pittsburgh. It does say that the average rate will be around 6.1%, which is still a lot better than 6.7, 6.8, or 6.9. That could be the difference of a couple $100s a month, but it is my my policy that I don't believe people should be buying houses if they're going to be broke within a couple $100s a month. It's always safe to buy within your means, like within the median of your means, and not like at the very, very, very edge of being house poor. God, this is shaping up to be a long video. It sure is. If inflation cools faster than expected and the job market moderates, rates may decline sooner and or more, dropping to 6% in the beginning of the year and then settling around 5.8% for the rest of the year. But if inflation proves stubborn, rates are more likely to stay elevated for several months and decline slowly before ending the year just below 6%. So let's hope the first scenario happens and not the second one. House hunters may need a higher credit score or lower debt-to-income ratio to qualify for a mortgage as lenders tighten credit standards due to rising unemployment. That said, those who do qualify may pay less in closing costs as lenders offer fewer products, which allows them to lower fees to attract customers during the slowdown. You heard it there first. Prediction number 3. Home prices will post their first year-over-year decline in a decade, but the US will avoid a wave of foreclosures. Yeah, so basically what this is saying is like, it's not gonna be like 2008 because the people who bought in 2021 are not at a real risk of getting foreclosed on for the reasons that I had stated earlier. See, I'm so smart. I just sussed all this out before I even read this and deeply thought about it. Another possible, albeit less likely scenario is that prices will stay mostly flat on a year-over-year basis in 2023. That could occur if mortgage rates and or new listings fall faster than expected, which would prop prices up. But if inflation remains stubborn, rates stay higher than expected, and or supply increases more than expected, prices could fall by double digits. Sellers are only going to sell if they have to. If this is like the worst case scenario, then you're only going to be seeing houses on the market where sellers have to sell, either because of a divorce or a relocation or, whatever. These people are going to be the ones that absolutely have to sell, and because of that, as a buyer, you're going to be able to twist their arm quite a bit to get a deal. The typical home buyer's monthly payment will be about 63% higher in 2023 than it was in 2019, just before the pandemic began. Meanwhile, wages have only grown roughly 27% over that period. Yeah, I have to admit, the state that the economy is in is definitely a worrying factor, not only for me, as an industry professional, but for literally everybody in this country. Life just seems like it's getting less and less affordable. And as a millennial who watches these types of things happen right before my very eyes, it's like, oh my gosh, I really feel for other millennials that really feel like they were screwed over by everything that's gone on and they're priced out of the market and they'll never be able to accomplish what their parents accomplished. I really feel for those people, and that's part of my job is helping these people get to a place where they feel comfortable owning a home and they feel proud of it and they feel financially safe to do it. And again, just another really, really, really important role that a realtor has in the buying process is making sure that you're gonna be financially locked into a space where you feel comfortable and you feel like you're planting that seed so that you can grow a healthy financial future within your home. Prices remaining elevated above pre-pandemic levels also means a wave of foreclosures next year is highly unlikely. Very few homeowners are likely to see their mortgages fall underwater even with next year's anticipated price declines. That's because the homeowners who have had their home for at least a few years have a fixed low mortgage payments and plentiful home equity after values skyrocketed during the pandemic. Even those who bought recently near the height of the market are likely to have made a sizable down payment and therefore have some equity to land on. But what this is really saying is that the people that bought houses, they had stable jobs. The recession didn't really hit them quite as hard as people that became unemployed at the beginning of the pandemic. So that's basically what they're saying in a nice way in this paragraph. Housing markets in relatively affordable Midwest and East Coast metros, especially in the Chicago area and parts of Connecticut and upstate New York, which is like upstate New York and Pittsburgh are really kind of similar price points, I think, will hold up relatively well even as the US market cools. Those areas tend to be more stable than expensive coastal areas, and they didn't heat up as much during the pandemic home buying frenzy. So US housing market's likely to hold up best in 2023. Pittsburgh is number 8 on that list out of 10 housing markets. Honestly, that's great news. I'd love to hear it. And it's because Pittsburgh remains affordable. Like, what we saw was nationally, and Pittsburgh has always been affordable. And while like the whole entire water level rose, Pittsburgh did rise with it, but we still stay relatively at the bottom there because we're just, you know, we're following that national line, but we're still affordable, relatively speaking. And yeah, we've been impacted less because we're not like a cool hip city, unfortunately, like Austin might be, or Los Angeles, or what's another one that people, or like Nashville. You know, we're not like a trendy hip city yet, so we're still sort of floating around affordable because, you know, our weather kind of stinks. It's very cold. We're landlocked, which isn't great, but yeah, I mean, affordability is a huge factor in survival. So honestly, that's a great reason to move to Pittsburgh, and there's other great reasons, but that's in another video on my channel, which I can have a card linking to that. Prediction number 5, rents will fall and many Gen Zers and young millennials will continue renting indefinitely. Oh my god, you shaking all the time! Why do you do this? I don't know if any of you have a dog that just like needs your attention constantly. When like I'm talking on the phone, I'm doing a video, she needs to be in the room. Okay, back to rentals. We expect US asking rents to post a small year-over-year decline by mid-2023, with drops coming much sooner in some metros. Some large landlords are likely to offer concessions, such as a free month's rent or free parking before dropping asking rents. The rental price declines will be partly due to increasing supply, which has already led to an uptick in vacant units in apartment buildings. Multifamily construction is at a 50-year high, which means hundreds of thousands of new rental units will be available for next year. Another factor is reluctance to sell. Many homeowners will rent out their homes rather than sell because they don't want to lose a low rate. There will be an influx of single-family homes for rent. And because of that single-family home influx, millennials and Gen Zers are gonna rent a home to feel like they live in a house and like kind of fake owning a home by renting a house instead of an apartment. So that might kill apartment rentals a little bit, but yeah, home rentals are going to be huge in 2023 just because people feel very backed into a corner and they don't want to, you know, put their money out there, or they just don't have the money, so they're going to sort of fake it with a home rental, which again, like I don't blame people, but that's just the situation we are looking at. And again, like if you have to rent for a year or two before you can afford it, that's totally fine. Actually, I would encourage that if you have an ironclad plan to save up so that you can comfortably buy a home in the coming years. I wouldn't recommend just renting and like throwing your money away to the wind in 2023. If you do rent, if you have to rent, please contact me and we can find you a place and craft up an ironclad plan for you to save money while you rent so that you can buy in the coming years. And I think also you're going to see rental prices coming down in 2023 just because people are going to be hunkering down and like renewing their lease in the current place they're at because of the current rising prices. So the demand's going to go down and thus the rents will go down. Prediction number 9. Migration from one part of the country to another will ease from the pandemic boom. 2021 made it seem desirable to relocate because you could buy a house in a more expensive city for a lower interest rate, so that sort of fueled the relocations to more expensive cities. But again, people are going to be sort of hunkering down unless they need to move for a job, which obviously if you're moving here for a job, it's going to be a good move for you. You're probably getting a pay raise and you may be able to out-purchase some locals if you're coming from a more expensive state with a higher cost of living. Prediction number 10, rising disaster insurance costs will make extremely climate risky homes even more expensive. Yeah, so like buying a home in Texas or Florida or Mississippi is gonna be, the flood insurance is gonna go up. You know, I don't know what kind of insurance they're gonna have for like an ice disaster like they had a couple years ago in Texas, but yeah, that's whatever that insurance is probably gonna go up. Hurricane insurance, I don't know if that's a thing, but yeah, Pittsburgh doesn't really have to worry about that. Like, we truly do not have any natural disasters. I think the most natural disastery we get here is like snowmageddon or like ultra cold weather, but people know how to handle that here. We've done it before. We know how to drive in the snow. Flood plains and flood zones are not really common here in Pittsburgh because we have such a high elevation, because we're in the Allegheny Mountains region. It's very hilly here, so the elevation's pretty high, again, as I said. So yeah, there's not too much disaster insurance that comes along with buying a house here. I guess there's like miner's insurance, like if your house is sitting on top of a mine, because there are a lot of coal mines here. But again, I think that's like very, very few houses in this region. I'm just gonna read you a few facts and figures from here because this video is already too long. Pennsylvania housing supply. In November 2022, there were 36,000 homes for sale in Pennsylvania, down 4.3% year over year. The number of newly listed homes was 9,000 and down 18.1% year over year. The average months of supply is 2 months, up 0 year over year. Down 18.1% year over year. That's a lot of people deciding that they're not gonna list their home. And I don't blame them because, yeah, with the way things are, it's like the uncertainty is too much. Especially on the flip side of buying after you sell. Like, the amount of uncertainty is truly like heart-stopping. And really what they're saying here is like the big killer has been inventory. It's not even like the dearth of buyers. It's literally the inventory that's just killing everything here. How competitive is the market? In 2022, 30.6% of homes in Pennsylvania sold below list price, down 5.6 points year over year, which like hardly any homes sold under list price in 2021, like literally almost none. There were only 28.4% of homes that had price drops, up from 19% of homes in November last year. There was a 98.3 sale to list price, down 0.86 points year over year. Yeah, so our market really wasn't hit too badly. I think you're gonna see the lowest of it maybe at the beginning of 2023. Like it might be rough. It might be rough. But again, you know, hiring an experienced agent who knows their market like the back of their hand, that's the way to really get through this crisis if you do need to buy a house in 2023. So I'm gonna stop this video right here because I think I've thrown enough information at you that is pertinent to the Pittsburgh real estate market from my point of view as a real estate agent here in Pittsburgh. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you liked this content, please click the like button and the subscribe button to hear of more content. Click that bell icon to be notified, and please leave a comment below if you liked this, if there's something I can improve upon, or if there's any real estate content you'd like to see as a person either relocating to Pittsburgh or wanting to move within Pittsburgh. All right, everybody, have a great new year ahead, and I will see you in 2023. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.